I am worried that my fiancé and her mom won't consider my family in the future. I am afraid my fiancé and her mom are not going to consider my family for anything in the future. My fiancé and I have known each other for a long time but finally reconnected and stayed connected last year when I was living across the country. We're both from the same state, just about 3 hours from each other's hometowns. I decided to quit what would have been a career that would have made me financially free and move back to our home state earlier this year. I moved to a town where she works and I now work, about 20 minutes from her hometown/entire family. So, already, I'm sure you can see that I sacrifice being 3 hours from my friends and family so she can be down the road from hers. Which is okay. It sucks not seeing my family a lot, but I love her and being here makes her happy, which makes me happy. We got engaged, started searching for venues and thought it would be common sense to consider my friends and family and get married somewhere in the middle. Hour-and-a-half drive for both sides. Fair. Her mom went ballistic and all hell broke loose when she caught wind of us even trying to go out of town for our wedding, saying her side of the family will not travel out of town for it and that my fiancé would be eliminating all of them if we were to choose out of town. We even brought it into about 45 minutes away from her hometown, just to chip off a little bit from my side and still try and be considerate to them. All hell broke loose again. Needless to say, my future mill made life a living hell for my fiancé for a period of time during this planning. I've never seen her cry so much. We ended up choosing a venue in our town, about 20 minutes from her side of the family, and of course, the mill is happy and dandy. Had to apologize to my family and friends for making them drive 3+ hours. My brother and a few groomsmen are going to be driving about 7. Fast forward to the holiday planning, as our first holidays being engaged and last before we're married. Her family all live close to each other, especially her mom's side. They have Christmas traditions spanning all day the Saturday before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. I think her dad's side gets the Saturday before and that's it. Now, we see her cousins, grandma, parents, her whole family at least 2 times a week. Sometimes more. We see my brothers maybe once a quarter, my parents maybe once every month and a half at best. I tried hinting at this, and saying maybe we'd be more considering of my family during the holidays since we never see them and always are with her family. She didn't like this at all. For reference, I gave her family Thanksgiving and the day before Thanksgiving to my family. Anyways, due to my oldest brother's job, he works either Christmas Day or Eve. So it's hard to have plans set in stone because we find out which day he's off only about a month in advance, when planning against traditions. So, my fiancé made the comment, I don't want to miss any Christmas events, and I tried explaining that is literally impossible when marrying someone and being married. Some compromise and considerations have to be made. I finally was able to beg her to go to my family Christmas night. So, she gets the 23rd, all of Christmas Eve, and Christmas morning with her family. I don't see this as 50/50, which is what I would like it to be. Considering the time throughout the year with her family compared to mine is about 90/10. This concerns me and she gets upset when I confront her about it. Her mom, I'm sure you can tell from the wedding stories, isn't very considerate either. So, I'm thinking now, what about when we have kids? I want them to know their grandparents equally well. What's going to happen then? Are my parents going to be the rare odd grandparents to them? I hope not. Any advice on how to put my foot down but in a respectful way? Edit, I'm getting a lot of it's over. Get out now. Don't marry her type comments. I'm asking for advice here. How would you go about creating those boundaries without coming off as an asshole? Keep in mind that type of close-knit family stuff for her mom's family is all she knows. I, on the other hand, had deaths in my family and extended family that ultimately ended the traditions we had starting about 5 to 6 years ago. Now there are no traditions other than trying to do Christmas date at my parents'. She still has those traditions on her side that haven't dwindled out yet. Comnet. Your fiancé is not considerate of you. She had made it crystal clear. Her priority is not you, it's her family. And her family is toxic if Mill throw tantrums like that. Do you want toxicity your whole life? The answer is not to budge. Cancel the wedding, make couple therapy mandatory for the relationship to continue. If progresses are made, great. Otherwise, you will spare yourself a life of misery. If you do not respect yourself, others won't respect you either. Sometimes including your loved ones. Unless you want it to continue this way or even worse, you need to make a stand right now. Cancel your wedding plans and have them done at most halfway between your families. You need to make realize you will not give up on there being 50-50th split between attention you give to your respective families, and she needs to compromise as much as you did. It sounds like you've hinted and suggested a bunch, but you need to sit down and have a blunt, scary conversation about this. Say everything you said here. Don't soften it. And then give her some time to think about if it's something she can do. Also, maybe your family can eventually be involved in some of her family traditions. Do they get along? The thing is, she has to want things to change in order for her to even be in a place to hear you. You can phrase everything perfectly in the calmest tone and come prepared with a PowerPoint presentation outlining your reasoning, but if she thinks this is fine as is, you're screwed. Another thing to consider is that even if she agrees with you in theory, if she's going to cave once her mom freaks, see, your wedding venue, then you're just going to fight this battle over and over. I'm sorry, but you need to have this conversation with your fiancée prior to marrying her unless you are willing to outright cut your family off completely. Not to mention, when you get married, you are going to be in a honeymoon phase and are not going to constantly want the females in her life around 24/7, and that sounds exactly like what will happen. I understand wanting to make your fiancé happy, but at what expense? Are you willing to alienate your own family and be unhappy just to appease her and her mother? I can tell you right now, you two are in love and all lovey-dovey, but give it a few years of marriage and you constantly always bending to her will and not getting the same considerations in return will lead to divorce for you. You are setting the bar with your future wife and in-laws right now that basically says, well, if we cry and plead, he will just cave in and give me/us what we want. What is normal, in a situation where you are so far from your family, is to trade off holidays or trade off years. For example, my husband and I live far away, 6+ hour drive, or 1 to 2 hour plane ride, from both of our families. His family celebrates Christmas and mine doesn't, so we do Thanksgiving with my family and Christmas with his. I also have friends who alternate years, 1 year Thanksgiving with her family and Christmas with his, the next year they swap. Trying to split the holiday so you spend some time with both families at every holiday only makes sense if both families are local. Visiting your family for just 1 day when they are 3 hours away is crazy. You need to alternate. If she won't agree to that, I would postpone the wedding. So, when does she start to consider you her family? You two should be approaching wedding planning, holidays, etc. together as a team to figure out how to make things equitable. It won't always be perfect 50-50ths all the time, but you should strive for both feeling good about the outcome. If you are planning to have kids, this will heighten the emotions and pressure, so the sooner you two start working as a team, the better. Look, this type of dynamic does not change after marriage. If someone can't compromise, the relationship is doomed. She doesn't care about your family or your feelings or what you want. She's showing you this now. Either accept it or call off the wedding. Story 2. My brother and I caught our divorced parents sleeping together. I and my twin brother have parents who divorced 5 years ago. No fights, no cheating, as far as we know, no yelling, no nothing, except one day they simply told us they did not love each other anymore and would go their separate ways. My mom keeps the house and my dad moved out into a place half an hour drive away. They would take us in alternate weeks. My brother and I have always been busy with activities like sports and music and then our part-time jobs, so the divorce didn't really hurt us much. It also helps that our parents never bad-mouthed each other to us and were perfectly friendly when they had to hang out. They also give each other Christmas gifts and personal things like boxes of chocolate or tea, but always something. They never really dated other people after the divorce. Maybe they did, but we never saw them bring anyone over or talked about anyone, so nothing serious. Sometimes the relatives would casually bring up a potential partner when they thought we couldn't hear them, but our parents always laughed the suggestion off. A month ago, while on his business trip, my dad's place was broken into. He took most of his electronics with him, so not much of importance was stolen, but the property damage was substantial. My mom invited him to stay with us and he took the guest room downstairs. A couple weeks ago, I came home early because the boss at my part-time job wanted to close early. I came through the door and could see my parents kissing in the kitchen in their underwear. I quickly got out of the house before the underwear was no longer on them. I didn't know what to think. My parents didn't know that I saw them and carried on as usual. I was so confused I decided to not yet tell my brother. A few days ago my brother caught them together, this time at night when he was looking for snacks and the door to the guest room was not completely closed. He, on the other hand, told me the very next morning. So I told him of what I saw, and now we're wondering about our parents' relationship. Are they dating? Are they getting back together? Are we entitled to know? Should we get our hopes up? My brother and I just hope neither of us catch them in the act again. Comment? OP, let this thing, whatever it is, move on its own. They are being good co-parents by keeping you at arm's length of any drama or conflict. If that were to change, maybe you should talk to them, but for now let them on their own. I have known of couples that love each other but could never live together. I know of a couple that has been married, divorced, and remarried and now are living separate but still married, and the whole time never dated anyone else. They still go on dates and hang out. It works for them. As long as your parents are happy, safe, and being respectful, there is not much to say. I am sure you do not want them talking to you about your love life without asking. They feel the same. It could also be them testing the waters of reconciliation. Just leave it be. There are layers to this cake that are bitter, not butter. Best you leave it alone. Talk to a therapist about it later. Maybe they ain't compatible as a couple or being in the same house for an extended period time together, or they could just be casually doing the deed together, as it perfectly fine for people to do that. Best way to know is to get them to sit down together with yourself and your brother and just ask about what you have both seen and let them answer it for themselves rather than just speculating on a number of different things. As with what you said, it shows they both still care for each other, but it looks like they might just be really good friends that occasionally get busy with each other, and they could have been doing this for years and never been seen by anyone till now. I hook up with my ex when I'm horny. We don't like each other but are compatible in other ways. Probably your parents. They're both there together, so much as well smash and have some fun like the good old days. Just let it go. My parents divorced when I was 6 and hooked up on and off for the next 15 years, but they never got back together and now they don't even talk. Maybe they got together because they have a lot of history but know where they stand, and it's easier to hook up with each other than with people they're not interested in dating. Especially since they have an amicable relationship, it might be the easiest, no fuss FWB situation they could ask for. You have to remember that at one point they were in love with each other. You don't know why they broke up, but it sounds like they were extremely successful co-parents, and it's not too surprising that being back in close proximity, some old feelings might have gotten rekindled. Don't get your hopes up. The core relationship problems might still be there. They haven't told you because they're probably still figuring it out themselves. Let them have their fun. Pretend you don't know unless they tell you. Telling them might throw cold water on this precisely because they don't want to get your hopes up.